welcome all to episode 2 of RoXolid Radio. Yes, I know it's been since January. I suck. We've had a few things going on here. We've had a lot of videos going out, and we have this little beer bug thing going on with the Corona, whatever the bug is that's going on. But we are here again with RoXolid Radio, and this week we are actually going to have a special guest with us, so we're going to bring him in right now. This is Mike from the RetrolLectors. Mike, thanks for joining us. For those who may not be familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself, because you have got some cool stuff going on your channel.
Yeah. Well, again, my name is Mike. I host a channel called The Retrollectors. It started off as me and my brother-in-law did a competition back and forth to see who would finish a collection first. He was going after a complete NES library, and I was going after a complete Dreamcast library. And that started off 6 years ago. And it's not like we parted ways. He stole my brother-in-law and all that. He focused more on his family and work and stuff like that. So I controlled the channel since then. It's been about maybe like 3 or 4 years since I've been like solely doing the channel on my own. Yeah, I do focus mainly on Dreamcast stuff. Now I do a little bit of modern takes and modern games and pickup videos. I do a little bit of like NES retrospectives and mostly, like I said, Dreamcast stuff, retrospectives, top fives, little lesser known facts about the Dreamcast, and try to broaden the horizon of people that don't know anything about the Dreamcast. Even though I'm not an expert, far from it, I just like to put my little bit of 2 cents into the world, or into start a conversation.
So let me ask you this, because I have never been a huge Dreamcast fan. What is it about the Dreamcast for you that just made it the system that you fell in love with?
That's a great question. When it first came out, I followed it through like EGMs and so many like different publications. That was during that time. That was the only time we can get information. I have a whole stack of magazines there, and I was thumbing through it the other day, and I just when it was coming out and seeing snippets of Resident Evil Code Veronica, or seeing Shenmue, the development cycle of that, or Sonic Adventure, the development cycle of that, it was something that I never seen graphics like that. Like what we had at that point in time to where it was gonna go, it was like amazing. And I can't say that I'm too much of a graphics junkie, but at that point in time, the graphics were amazing. And when you're or at least when I was looking at these things, I was like dumbfounded. Like, I have to have that. And as the years went by, like again, I started collecting 6 years ago, and I got my Dreamcast originally at launch, maybe about November, roughly. And the first game I got for it was Soul Calibur, and I was sunk in. I just played the world modes over and over and over again, just to keep going. And then Virtua Tennis was amazing. Like the overworld on that was so much fun, and the mini games and crazy taxi. There's just so many games that myself, I'm close to 40 years old. I'm turning 40 years this year, and I used to go to arcades, and I used to play these games in arcades, and being able to play them at home was amazing. Crazy Taxi, playing in an arcade was great, but when you got it to home and you could play it without entering quarters or dollars into a machine, it was amazing.
So let me ask you this. I know that many people, and myself included, I am not the hugest fan of the Dreamcast controller.
No.
What are your thoughts on it? Because I feel like I'm going to trigger you a little bit here.
No, I understand it has its downfalls. Like the fact there's no second analog stick is a big deal. And playing those third person type games or first person type shooters, it's really hard to control an up and down or left and right or moving while you're going. Some games do a very good job of it. Shenmue does a very, very good job of the controls, how it's easy to walk and look. You take your thumbs off your mobility button, but you're still able to go back to it quickly, which is, I really enjoy it. It is kind of cramped up, but I don't know. To me, I'm not the biggest, like, I don't have issues with controllers really. Like, yeah, they may cause a little bit of cramping, but like the Switch causes cramping, and that's something that came out 3 years ago. So you can't compare apples and oranges when they both have the same issue.
Well, and before we dive into our topic here today, I just want to make sure too, I mean, we are recording this and we are in the middle of the like I mentioned, the virus that's going on.
Mhm.
How are you and yours doing through all this? I'm hoping you guys are safe and healthy, and by and large, on a
Oh yeah, we're good. My wife is part of the team that goes out. She works at a grocery store, so she's a bookkeeper at a grocery store, so she has to be there all the time. So during this period of time, I'm home with my kids. My kids are 11 and 10, and they're dealing with what they can at home and trying to keep themselves entertained. School, trying to get the schooling issue started, and the progress running with the online stuff was like still devastating, because it's, for me, it's not something I'm used to. I'm not the type of person that goes online to look for these programs that are, enter here and go here and then jump back. And I'm not that type of person. Luckily, my daughter is old enough that she understands what needs to be done. She's been doing it in school or in class at that before this, so that's pretty good. So she's showing me how to do that. We're pretty good. Like it's just dull. We're going from room to room. Tidy up one area, they make a mess in another area, or I make a mess in another area and walk to another area, tidy up, and just keep on keeping on. Like there's not much for us to do right now.
Well, good to hear, and from my family to yours, nothing but the best.
Thank you. You too.
But the reason I wanted to bring you on is I think you were the one that kicked this off on Twitter, and the question was something to the effect of, what are your 5 favorite series of games? Am I saying it right? Or
yes, that's what it was, but it wasn't. Sorry, it wasn't run by me. Somebody tagged me in it, and I just started tagging. So somebody tagged me.
You tagged me.
Yes, exactly. So DeCreta, one of a YouTube friend, known him for about five years now. He tagged me in it, and I entered my response, and I tagged 3 other people, and you being one of them. I wanted to hear, the people that you don't speak too often, but you have an understanding and a model iota of respect, like that you want to know what their thought process on gaming or what their top 5 are. And I always want to tag some people that you don't want to always tag the same people and get the same responses all the time. I want to tag somebody new and somebody that I would like to have at least a conversation with, going back and forth, whether it be on Twitter or on this. And I tagged you, and like I said, I just wanted to hear what other people wanted to their top 5 franchises or series.
Well, and I will say you piqued my curiosity. And before we get into our top 5 list here, and the way we're going to do it is we're going to do Mike's going to mention one, then I will mention one. We'll go back and forth. But I did want to let you know that this segment of RoXolid Radio is presented to you by OneUpCleaningCard.com. Clean it, don't blow it. The OneUp Card brand was developed to make cleaning your retro games and consoles as easy as possible. Less time dipping cotton swabs in the bottles of rubbing alcohol, more time reliving your nostalgia and creating new memories. OneUp Card has even just introduced a new Super Famicom and PAL Edition Super NES console cleaner. A clean console offers you the best gaming experience you can expect. These also work with North American Super Nintendo consoles if you have just the center pin connector only. If your pin connectors inside your Super Famicom or PAL Super NES is dirty, grimy, or corroded, you can use the new OneUp PAL Super NES and Super Famicom system cleaner to prolong the life of your console. And I gotta say, I've got a couple of them, right here. These are the best for cleaning your games and systems. And congratulations to Adam on his new Super NES or Super Famicom and PAL Edition Super NES cleaning cartridge. So 5 games, 5 series that you love. Mike, I'll let you kick it off.
Oh, okay. Started off with Halo. Halo was something that I would, it was actually, it was fun fact. It was supposed to be on the Dreamcast. It was, canceled on the Dreamcast, and it was supposed to be a third-person shooter or a third-person adventure game. Then it became a first-person shooter on the Xbox. It was something that the mystique of Master Chief from the first Halo to the 5th. Right now that we're on right now, and possibly going on to the 6th. Well, not possibly, we're going on to the 6th at Halo Infinite. Just the mystique behind him, and the fact that he's a super soldier that we don't know too much about, and the stuff we do know about, we still just want to know more. And when Microsoft initially launched that on the Xbox, funny story, I bought my Xbox solely on the basis of 2 games, Halo being one and Project Gotham Racing was the other. And I was playing it at a friend's house, and when we played Project Gotham Racing, I was amazed by the graphics on it and the damage and the collision on the cars. It was amazing. But then we played a 4-player Halo. It was crazy. It was just so much fun. It was brought me back to GoldenEye. It was just so much fun had in one basement. And like I said, within a week, I think I went out and I bought it right away. And first game I bought was Halo. And I've been stuck with that franchise ever since. Halo 2 was probably the most amount of time I've ever spent, close to, on multiplayer. I played so much time on multiplayer, it was ridiculous. Then Halo 3 came out when the 360 came out, and I remember being in the forums trying to read up on Halo, the franchise, or Halo 3, what the information they had. And, we're in our lobbies and talking about what they got to include this on Halo 3. If they did this on Halo 2, they have to include this on Halo 3. And then Halo 3 dropped and it upped the ante even more. And then 4, and and some of even the spin-offs were some of the best, in my opinion, story-driven games. Like, I loved Halo Reach. I loved ODST. Reach I liked a little bit more than ODST, but it was I just love that second spin on, well, Master Chief is not part of this, but let's include a campaign that tells a totally different story, which is really good. And I'm hoping that they do a Reach Part 2. I don't see it in the future, but I would love to see something with different characters of Reach. I know what happened in Reach, kind of spoiler. You can't really go off on that, but maybe they could do other characters, then lead that up. I don't know how they would do it, but I love that franchise. It's such a fun franchise, and to frag people online was so much fun, and they amped it up every year. So,
well, and I have to agree, it's actually a really good franchise. Not a huge Xbox fan, but I know that when I reviewed, I can't remember if it was the Pound or the Hyperkin HD TV cable for the Xbox, I had to play Halo. And I think I captured about 90 minutes worth of footage, and I looked at the time, it's like, yeah, this is going to suck.
I got to stop.
Yeah. But yeah, I have to admit, it's been a pretty enjoyable franchise, the little bit of it that I've played, and it is one of those, all right, I'll give you that one. So my first one, I think, is going to surprise some people, because when they think of franchises, they think like Zelda or Mario or Halo. I'm going to go with MLB The Show. I am a huge Milwaukee Brewers fan. I love going to games. I love watching games. And MLB The Show, for over a decade now, has been the pinnacle when it comes to baseball for the PlayStation 4. And that's one of the bummers for some people, is the fact that it has only been for the PS4. It is coming multi-platform next year, so Xbox fans and fans of the Switch, you'll be able to get it on there as well. What I love about the show, first of all, just the overall experience. You get, the full team rosters. You can make trades. You can, have either a condensed season. You can play all 162 games, plus playoffs, plus the World Series if you would like. Matt Vasgersian, who is the play-by-play announcer through the show, he actually started with the Milwaukee Brewers, and then has moved on from there. And, what's the pitcher that's on there? Chris, dang it, I can't remember his name. But he also pitched for my Milwaukee Brewers. So there's a lot of Brewers tie-ins there. I love the fact, that I can pound the bejesus out of the Chicago Cubs like they deserve each and every time. I think the overall presentation is great, and I have gone on to try to play other more modern baseball games. I have tried, what's the new one that's out there that has been out? The RBI baseball series.
No, is it Slugfest?
RBI. No, it's not Slugfest. I haven't tried that one. But RBI baseball, it's too arcade.
Yeah, too cartoony.
Are too floaty. Just when you're in the batter's box, it's like impossible to get a halfway decent hit going. About the only thing in that series I've enjoyed has been the home run derby. But by and large, MLB The Show, I think they've done an absolute great job. Although with who they have on the cover this year, not going to buy it.
Switch the cover around.
Yeah, well, and for those who don't know, Mike's in Canada. I think you guys got someone from the Blue Jays.
Yeah, we've had it. We've had him for
I may have
3
to
years now. I
import-
think since we're 2020. I think 2017 was the first one we had. I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Marcus Strollman or somebody. But yeah, we get a separate cover totally, and it's just for the past 3 years. Because before that, MLB 15, I believe, was still an American League player, or not American League player, an American player or American team player. So yeah, it was only for, I think, 3 years. This might be the fourth. I'm not sure if it was from 16 or 17. But yeah, we've gotten Stroman, and I think Donaldson was one. I'm not sure. But yeah, I totally agree. Like I haven't played a baseball game in a while, and I just did a review on one on my channel over for about a Dreamcast game. And I agree. Like the controls make or break a baseball game. I think with realistically any sports game, but a baseball game is really finicky because it's more precise. You know, you want to hit the ball. Your timing has to be right. It's not like a puck coming to a stick. It's just, you know, you could one time it it has a grace period where you could one time it, or soccer. It's not that precise. The movement, yes, but
hold on here. I just got to stop you here. The fact that a Canadian is making hockey references.
You have to. You have to.
I know,
Next is going to be Tim Hortons and maple syrup.
I know, right?
But yeah, yeah. So I was playing World Series Baseball 2K for the Dreamcast, and I reviewed it, and I remember buying that at launch, and I was so excited to play it, and I was like really looking forward to it because the graphics looked amazing, and I wanted to, the 2K series at that point, with NFL and NBA, their franchises were fantastic. The tennis was amazing. So when you got a baseball game and you got to play your team, your local team in baseball, I was in 100%. And then I got it at home, and the controls are so bad. Like they use the triggers to bat. And I don't know if MLB does that or not, the show does that or not. I'm used to the face buttons being the batting, A or X or whatever to bat, and you have the power bat, circle, or B. But with this, they have the trigger, and Dreamcast doesn't have like analog triggers where it's like it's sensitive to how deep you push it. It's just a push. So when you're playing this game and you're going to swing the bat, your logic is to pull the trigger and try to swing, but it doesn't. It's more of a tap, and that like throws you off. Your timing is off completely. Your swinging is ridiculous. You're either too late, too early, popping up, popping out. Even like controlling of players, you can't even do that in the field. And I know that MLB The Show has been amazing with their presentation, their control scheme. Pulling off double plays, triple plays. It's all you basically on the field. It's not decisions made for you. Diving at a ball, or trying to climb the wall. That's your decision to do it at that point in time. Whereas in World Series Baseball, it was totally opposite. It was controlled by the AI, and if it was just out of the park, you had no option. Okay. So yeah, I found that certain controls on certain games need to be precise, and I think a baseball game is one of those games that need to be precise because timing is everything.
Very cool, and I can't wait for us to get back to baseball, dear Lord.
No.
What's your second game?
My second game series is Mario Brothers. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan. Like there's games I haven't played in the Mario franchise, just like Zelda. Like Zelda, I'm a fan of, but there's a lot of games I didn't play more on Zelda than I did on Mario. I pretty much played every iteration of a Mario game, with exception of Galaxy 2 and a few others. But my first game I've ever played was like when I was 6 years old. Was my parents got me Atari 2600 and Mario Brothers on the Atari 2600, and it's something that you could always play Super Mario Brothers on the NES. You could always play Super Mario Brothers 3 on an NES. You could always play. There's just that type of drop in, play a few levels, and you're able to drop out. If you want to continue, it's good on you. But the simplicity of a Mario game where it's just you try to get to the end level especially with the 2D ones, just go from left to right and you make it there, and you save the princess. With the 3D world ones like Odyssey and Mario 64 being one of my top three favorite Mario games, or even top three favorite games of all time, Mario 64, that dynamic of going anywhere you wanted was something that, like, I was amazed by it. And when I played originally on the Atari, to see that evolution from literally a 4-bit character that was left and right and you were confined in a little box to, you know, a world in Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3 where you can go left to right and pretty much anywhere within those parameters. And then you go to Mario 64 and the world is yours. You could do what you want when you want. You can enter any world, give or take, at any time you want.
Stars.
Yeah, as long as you get the stars, you can just do it at any, you know, flow you want. It was something that the series always stuck with me, and now with the Switch, with Odyssey, and now with the NES online store there, my daughter's she'll pick up the Switch and she'll go upstairs and she'll start playing. The other day she was playing Mario 2, and I'm like, what made you decide to play that? She's like, I don't know, I just saw it in the store and I wanted to play it. I'm like, all right, good on you. You know, like something that you could share with, like, for me, like I have kids, I could share with them, and it's not very complicated to explain. So it's, you know, the controls are spot on. A child can pick it up and understand it, and that's the whole fun of it, where you're able to expand somebody else's, you know, that have never played. If you're gonna say somebody's never played a video game before, you could say, here's Mario Brothers. This is probably the first game you'll probably gonna play, and this is what video gaming is all about. This is it, and just play. There's a few other games and franchises you could say that, yeah, this is going to be the top 5, top 10 games you got to play for somebody who's never played a video game. But I think Mario is probably the epitome of the one game you should start off with. And I think it's a franchise that doesn't age, it doesn't end.
Now, the one thing is, we just need to teach you how to pronounce the name properly. And I'm saying this because I know I can see them in the comments already. Bird of Prey 5.
It's Mario.
Yes, it's Mario. It's not Mario. And he calls it Mario. He's got that thick Brooklyn accent and everything too. And we love Bird, but he's wrong, and so are you on that. But yeah, I have to agree. Odyssey is, I mean, I know Breath of the Wild won Game of the year that it came out. To me, Odyssey destroyed it. It was such a better game.
Yeah.
The controls were tighter. It was still open world, but it confined you enough that you were able to move and progress.
Right? Like I found once I finished Zelda, there's a lot of people that spend thousands of hours or hundreds of hours on that game, and good on you. Like I just, to me, the best Zelda to me is Ocarina of Time, and it kicked off what every other Zelda game has adopted going forward. With Mario 64 and Odyssey, it's the same. Like, it's literally almost the same game, and it's perfected. It's just, you know, modernized in graphics, but I think it's perfect. Zelda is a great game. Breath of the Wild, finished it, I enjoyed it, but I found I was like so overwhelmed in that game that I just wanted to finish the game, and that was it. With Odyssey, I could literally put in and spend and try to find a few moons and try to put like a few things together and string it along with me and my daughter. Like I said, we play it on the Switch. She'll pick it up, she'll come to me and try to find this moon, and I enjoy it. With Zelda, it's too much for me, and I don't have time to sink in hundreds of hours into a game. I just want quick in and out gameplay, and I found Mario to be the perfect blend of that.
Well, and to use that as a launching point, my next series is Mario Kart.
Oh,
and I
nice.
remember playing it back, you know, on the Super NES all the way forward until the N64, the GameCube, the Wii, the Wii U, now on the Switch. It is such an amazing game. Even with that damned blue shell that comes out of nowhere, that is the cheapest thing ever. But when you're the one that's dishing it out, it is the most just gratifying thing ever as well. It brings together some of the best characters from our favorite franchises, almost like a Smash Brothers, but the racing is super tight as well. You get the drift aspects of it, and like in Mario Kart Double Dash, perhaps the most underrated entry in the series. You get the secondary character that you can swap items back and forth with, get your leaning going through the cart as well as you are turning. I mean, it's just a great game from a racing standpoint. And then when you introduce battle modes and online modes, it has definitely stood the test of time. When you figure the original one came out in 93 or 94, that series is almost 25 years old at this point, and it just keeps getting better. It's one of those that you could pick up the first game to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and still have a great time with just yourself or with a group of friends online. But I will say, I don't know that many friendships were broken up as quickly or as permanently as when people were playing Mario Kart 64 couch co-op. I mean, it was the first time we had 4-player co-op and everything in a racing game, and it's phenomenal. To this day, it's still one of my favorite racers of all time, and I enjoy like the F1 racing games on the PlayStation 4 and the NASCAR Heat series and stuff like that. And I do online play with that, iRacing as well. But Mario Kart just has got such a great place in my
highly replayable. Like you could just finish a race and just like, again, these things are just quick enough that you're invested, but also addictive enough in that quick lapse of time to keep you wanting to go. And I agree, Double Dash was a fantastic game. It's probably, again, like you said, one of your favorite and one of my favorite on the system. I love the ability to switch out items and characters. I wish they were able to do that on Ultimate. I don't think if you pick up a double block, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't swap that out. You have to use it in order that you get it, which in Double Dash, you could swap it out.
I thought you could swap it, but it's been a while since
I don't think you can. Because like if you get a coin and let's say a red shell, you have to, or like you have to use the coin first, right? Whereas in Double Dash, you were able, if you had, let's say, a red flower or the flower, and you could swap out to Mario and he gets something else and he could use that, and then you get back and get to use your second power up, which I wish they were introduced again. To be able to, even save certain items. Like if you have a blue shell and you're in like 4th place, you don't want to use that blue shell just yet, but you can't collect anything else until you use it. And I wish they were able to just swap that out and get you a second power up and then use it when you want to. But I totally agree that Mario Kart Double Dash is probably one of my favorite in the franchise as well.
Well, and especially if you've got like a Carby or an EC or a Eon Gaming GCHD and whatnot, the game still looks phenomenal today. So, what's your third series?
Third is Metal Gear. I loved one of the first games I bought on the NES was from a flea market. My parents got it for me. It was Metal Gear. I had no idea what I was going on. I was probably maybe 8 or 9 years old. I had no manual, no nothing. But I was determined to try to figure out this game. I still never beat it. And it was something that like you had to piece it screen by screen by screen. And it was so much fun back then, but I didn't get very far. I think I got to one of the warehouses, maybe like level 2 or level 3. But then the PlayStation 1 came in, and I remember renting Metal Gear with a friend of mine. We went to Blockbuster Video when that was a thing. And we went to try Metal Gear, and I just rented the console and I rented the game. I didn't rent the memory card, which was my fault. So I was playing the game, and we're playing, and we're just getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this game. And we're just so like each scene, we're just watching these cutscenes and like, oh my God, this is like a movie. We're talking to each other and just like, this is like a movie. I've never seen or experienced anything like that. And the dialogue amongst them and the codec calls again amongst them. This is again, like I'm gonna go back to my top 3 of all time. This is like on the top 3 of all time. These 3 games are only interchangeable amongst themselves. They're not interchangeable amongst any other thing. There's certain top 3s or top 10s that I have for maybe modern games or retro games or a certain console or whatever. But if I'm going to put a top 3 list or top 5 list together of my games that define me, those 3 games are always going to be there. And if I name 3, 2, 1. It's not because I prefer one over the other three. It's just they're interchangeable, and that's how it goes. And Metal Gear was, it was unbelievable. The storytelling, the little quirky jokes that were dropped, the like the little Psycho Mantis battles, how you had to go take a boss a certain way, how do you have to play dead in certain scenarios, how you had to let somebody die to get a certain ending, and then you have to replay it again to let her survive to get a separate ending. It was just so much, like, so deep and just so much fun. And then Metal Gear amped up that whole scenario again on the I forget the name of the carrier that you were on, and introducing a Raiden. Just so much fun. Like you're on the one of the carriers, and you're able to do backflips and stuff like that, and you could slip on poo, and you wouldn't think that certain things Kojima programmed into the game that you wouldn't think were actually in the game, and those little things that he put in, he still does today, he puts in, and you're like, wow, I can't believe somebody actually thought of that. And Metal Gear was one of those things where I played and I'm like, I can't believe somebody thought of that. And it took me, it felt like it broke the third wall. Like, it's something that you never thought, like, put a controller down and the game is gonna vibrate and say that the character's doing it. It changed everything. And Metal Gear 3, another great game and franchise, going back to the big boss scenario. 4 and 5, even though 5 was kind of a letdown story wise, I still loved it. It was one of my favorite games when it came out. It was still missing obviously quite a bit, but it was such a fantastic game. 4 is probably the best cinematics I've ever seen for a PlayStation 4 game. The battle scenes alone, especially at the end, it was amazing. And like I said, the franchise will always be my top 3, and Metal Gear on the PS1 is by far probably my favorite of the bunch.
Well, and I've never really been into the series. I think I've played the original that was on the PS1 a little bit. My thought is, if I go in and start playing it, it'll be like Resident Evil 4 was for me, where I had never played the earlier Resident Evil games, but once I got into 4, it's like, all right, I'm invested. This is really good. And the one for me that really, I think a lot of people are surprised when I say this, Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, it's the best version of that game because of the motion controls, the way you can actually snipe characters and whatnot with the Wii remote. And it's actually the reason why I bought a PlayStation Move for Resident Evil 5, was because I loved that experience so much on the Wii. So I know a lot of people love the Metal Gear series. The little shock and surprise sound effect is synonymous with that series now, and so many people know about it. For my next series, I'm going to go back to the NES, actually. And now I know that this collection is available on the Xbox One. I think it's available on the PlayStation 4 as well. But I'm going to speak a little bit broadly here, and I'm going to talk about the Capcom Disney afternoon games. There wasn't a bad one in any of them. Darkwing Duck is one of my personal favorite games in any series of all time. But you don't just have that one. You've got DuckTales, you've got Tailspin, you've got even The Little Mermaid is really, really good too. Highly replayable, not easy, they are difficult, but they're fair. It's one of those where they define, what NES hard meant back in the day. And like I say, I know that you can go ahead and you can get a collection of these on the Xbox One for sure. There have been remasters of DuckTales. We all know what happened with that, where you could get the physical DuckTales remastered. It was also available on different eShops, and it's now off of the eShops. I actually have 2 copies of DuckTales Remastered, one that is still sealed for the Wii U. The controls are tight. The music is great. The moon level on DuckTales. How can you not fall in love with video game music that is that good? And like I say, Darkwing Duck, it is one of those. There is no reason for you not to fall in love with Darkwing Duck and get a little dangerous. Now, stay away from the TurboGrafx game, though. That's terrible.
I remember renting actually Darkwing Duck Blockbuster, and I was like, it was something that was so really, really good. The platforming was really good. I didn't get very far. I think I only had like 2 or 3 days to bring it back. It's like any Capcom game. It's Capcom hard or NES hard, like many people say. It's not unfair to play. It's, you know, as long as you understand the platforming and how to, you know, inject yourself to go forward or project yourself to go forward, you can learn that whole process of beating the game or beating that level. It's just, you have to, it's a trial and error type thing. Okay, I did this wrong, let me redo this again, and now I know that there's a character there that I could try to either get him off screen or jump on him and try to avoid him altogether. Yeah, Darkwing Duck was a really, really good game. Chip and Dale's I played a lot as well. It's really, really good
another
game.
Good one too.
Yeah, really good game. I never played Little Mermaid. When I was a kid, it was a, you know, boy stuff or girl stuff, and Little Mermaid it fell under the girl stuff, and not because it anything. It's just, it was, you know, you had this girl on the screen and say, okay, I don't want to play as that. I wanted to play as, you know, the army man or whatever it was. Exactly, right? So you want to play as the army man. Like Metal Gear, back to that, it has what's the guy from Terminator?
Kyle Reese.
Yeah, Kyle Reese on the cover, right? And it's like, oh my god, that's the Terminator. Yeah, see, like the difference in boxes alone, because that's all we had to go by was box art, and the cooler the box art, the more you wanted to buy or something you want to rent. And Little Mermaid, again, being a boy at that time, wasn't something I wanted to rent. I'm sure it's a fantastic game. It was just something I never played. That was
this, not so much.
Yeah. So you know, there's certain games that we went by. Like I remember Iron Sword, and you know, you're seeing a barbarian on the screen. It's got to be good. And I remember playing that game. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Well, and that's Ryan Schlemmer from Castlemania Games loves to give me a hard time about Demon's Sword and how great of a game that's such a terrible game. But speaking of Castlemania Games, good time to mention too that our top 4 games that we're going to talk about here is brought to you by CastlemaniaGames.com, your home for accessories, consoles, and games for the modern and retro video game enthusiasts. CastlemaniaGames.com carries the top names in the business, from HD Retrovision, RetroTink, Retrobit, Retro Fighters, Hyperkin, and more. Plus, when you shop at CastlemaniaGames.com, you can earn Castle Cash, their reward program that lets you earn money towards future purchases. And don't forget, if you use promo code RoXolid10, you can save 10% off of most items on the website. And rest assured that they are open and shipping daily as normal to serve both you and your family during COVID-19. So a nice segue there. Let's hear your 4th entry into this list.
It's going to be back to a Dreamcast game. It's Shenmue, the franchise that I followed from early inception when it was supposed to be on the Saturn and then brought to the Dreamcast. It was like seeing those clips in magazines. I have some magazines here. I just would have to thumb through it to find the exact pages of it, so where they are. Just seeing that inception of a character and how everything revolves around that character. Time of day changes. Characters change on screen based off of time and day. Weather changes based off of time of day or the day of the year. It's like what we have now in games where, you know, like Red Dead and GTA and weather effects and time of day, all that stuff stemmed. I could have been from somewhere else, but I from the first time I ever played something like that was on Shenmue, where the time of day changed characters on screen. The time of day changed the weather effects. The time of day changed even bus schedules. If you needed to go to a different part of the city and you had to get there based off of a certain time of day, that the bus constantly ran. It was really cool. Little side things. If you were outside during Christmas time, because the Dreamcast has an inboard clock, and if you set it to your region's time, if you set it for Christmas time or whatever, you would see a character dressed up as Santa Claus on screen. And that was like, you know, again, breaking the fourth wall or the third wall, that, you know, what's happening here is also happening in the game. And being able to do that, and the story, even though the Dreamcast is known for its very cheese voice acting and stuff like that, I don't get stuck on that. Maybe some people do. I don't get stuck on that because there's so much charm behind the game. It's just, you can overlook certain things. For me, like I don't care about graphics now. Like I play on my Dreamcast or even NES on an unmodded NES on a CRT. The way it was intended, the way I bought it is the way I connected it. So for me, yeah, I could upscale it and stuff like that. I don't want to. To me, it's still perfect the way it is. And when you install a Shenmue, or when you put it in Shenmue in, the way it is was the so advanced at that point in time that you were still overlooking certain like little issues that were here and there. And for me, the voice acting, yeah, it is cheap, but I still enjoy it. There's still a lot of Dreamcast games the voice acting is cheap, but there's still so much more to the game beyond this the superficial stuff, right? And Shenmue delivered it. Like before I played anything that was open world, that was my first open world sandbox game, and it was such a great game. The franchise is on part 3 now. I haven't played 3. I have it. It's still part of my backlog. That backlog is getting ridiculous now, but I'm finishing off 2 right now and going into 3 next on my PlayStation 4. I just 1 and 2, like by far, like there's certain things like that happen in the game that I would never think that they thought of in 2001, that they actually thought of. So I'll play a certain scene or a certain part of the game, and I'm like, wow, they actually thought of that. Or the dialogue that they have is time appropriate. So like certain things is like for instance, there was a scene in Shenmue 1 where he says something about a minor and a guy that's of age, and they threw that like basically blatantly in your face. It's like, no, that's wrong. You can't be doing that right now, right? And it was something that's like, wow, I didn't think they would have thought of that back then, and they actually did. And they made notice that you knew that certain things were based off of real world events, and it's really cool that they did that in Shenmue. I really did enjoy that game and franchise.
Well, Adam Korlick loves you very much right now. I will say that, as he is a huge fan of Shenmue, as those who are familiar with Adam knows. And one of the things I've heard him talk about too is like the streets and everything that they use are like they're exactly replicas
But
of
they
things
are,
that
yeah,
you can find in Japan, which is just
yeah.
it's super cool and awesome.
And another thing, like I don't know if any other game did this prior to this, but there's actually real world stuff in there. Like for instance, Timex watches, Coca-Cola, Sapporo beer. There's like the little Easter eggs that you can get in the game, but there's like little real world things that you could find at your local store. Coca-Cola, Sapporo beer, Timex watch. You can always look down with the Indiglo, the cheesy Indiglo. That was an actual thing back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it was in this game. Some of this stuff is actually when they re-released it on the PS4 and Xbox One, Shenmue 1 and 2. They actually changed the stuff. They updated where they don't have brands and stuff like that inside the game. So Coca-Cola is just a generic pop or something like that. Timex is not there. Sapporo beer is not there because they don't have the license for it now, so they obviously took it out. But back then, that was a big thing. I guess Yu Suzuki or the developers at Sega, contacted these companies and said, "Hey, we want your likeness or your product in our game." And these are real world streets. How cool would it be to have a Coca-Cola vending machine right there or something, right? And I guess they bought it, and it was pretty advanced for that period of time.
Yeah, and it's almost like you look at the terrible Transformers movies and like the placement of the Mountain Dew stuff and how that turned into a Decepticon. It's along those same lines, and yeah, I'm sure that it has to be something involved with licensing where you only have that for so long.
Yeah.
My fourth game, I keep going back and forth, and we aren't doing this in any particular order, but I was trying to decide if I was going to do which one I was going to save for last. And my second to last one is going to be Ratchet and Clank. It's probably the series next to Mario that I have bought more games of on more platforms, beaten more of, and had the most fun with. Copernicus, J. Quark, the fact that you have Armin Shimmerman, speaking of Quark, the actor who played Quark on Deep Space Nine, one of the greatest Star Trek characters of all time, involved in Ratchet and Clank. This is one of the first games, going back to the PS2, I remember laughing at the dialogue, not because it was dumb or it was Chinglish or anything like that. It was written to be humorous. The play control, again, is so tight. The weapons, oh my. Every other game, you get punished if you use a weapon too much. In Ratchet and Clank, the more you use your weapons, the stronger they get. And I can't remember the little robot that floats behind you and whatnot. But he's just talking smack the whole time that you've got him out there. You've got Dr. Nefarious, who is the big bad in this. And Ratchet and Clank are they're two likable characters. And I even have to admit, I liked the movie. The movie was fun too. It was authentic and it honored the source material. And I don't think it gets talked about nearly enough. But the mobile game was kind of crap. But every other series or every other release of this, whether we're talking about PS2, PS3, PS4, PSP, PlayStation Go, it's such an amazing series. I cannot wait for Insomniac to come out with another entry into Ratchet and Clank, because it's one of those that it's just fun to blow stuff up.
Funny story is I never played a Ratchet and Clank. I've never played it. Like when it came out, I was on Xbox and I was like back and forth between consoles. And like when I got my Xbox, I sold a PlayStation or like I was always back and forth. I downloaded Ratchet and Clank on my PS4. That, again, it's part of the backlog. It was free with one of the games, PlayStation Plus, and I downloaded it, and it's just sitting there, just waiting to play. But I can't. I don't want to start something new and not invest in a whole, beginning to end, where you're in between too many stories if you're going back and forth between games. I want to invest a lot of time into that one game, because just like you said, the characters, they've fought through the test of time. Obviously, they're at the PS4 right now and guaranteed going to be a PS5. So there is something behind they have that secret sauce that that it's tested, that
works.
It works, exactly, right? So there is something that everybody, you can go to a Ratchet and Clank game and a lot of people enjoyed it. I just never played it, so I can't say whether I enjoyed it or not, but I see the appeal behind it. Like I could see like even another game totally different, but like a Jack and Daxter. Never played it, but I can see the appeal behind it. Right?
If you like Jack and Daxter, you will love.
Exactly. I played, actually, I lied. I played the one of them on the PSP.
And what's nice too is the developers of Jack and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank, they're actually friends, and they actually hide Easter eggs in others' games in their own games. So if you like collectathons, Ratchet and Clank, you will love.
Yeah, and like I said, I could see the appeal behind it. I could see how it's on your top 5 because it's one of those games like a Mario game or a Mario game where it's brainless. You can just literally sit down and just play, and you don't have to think about real world stuff. You're just invested in the game. You're just concentrating on beating that boss, or just going forward and leveling up certain weapons, or it's just mindless fun. Then that's the whole point of playing games. You want to be invested into the character and enjoy it, not just playing a game to get through the slog of the game, right? And I could see, like I said, the humor behind it, and I understand the likability of the characters. And I like I said, I played the Jack on the PSP. That's the only one I ever played. And Daxter alone was so fun. Like his little one-liners, little quips here and there, and he's dropping little Easter eggs and stuff. It was really a lot of fun, a really good game to play. And I can see how Ratchet and Clank is one of your top 5.
Well, and Sly Cooper, another one in that.
Yeah, another one.
That same type too. So we're coming up on an hour in. We got one more each. Make it a good one, Mike. What's your number? Well, not your number one, but your last entry.
My last one. So my last one is Uncharted, the Uncharted series. When I bought my PlayStation 3, funny story behind that. But anyways, when I bought my first PlayStation 3, it came bundled with Uncharted 2, and I played that. I never played obviously the first one because this was my first entry into it, and I was amazed. Like cinematography, the story, how little things, the voice acting between characters. At that point, I never really experienced other than Metal Gear. I never experienced that on a PlayStation 3, and the dialogue amongst characters, how they're cracking jokes at each other based off of what's actually happening on screen. The dynamic between Nathan and Sully, like it was something so great about it. Then I ended up getting the collection 1, 2, and 3. I played just on PlayStation 3. I haven't played the PlayStation 4 version. I know they upres did stuff like that, but I have it on PlayStation 3. And I started with 1, and it was kind of not the same. I didn't enjoy it as the second one. I think the first one, it was like God of War 1 for me. It was too much, and it was just filler. You just added stuff to have stuff in the game to make the game seem like it was longer. And I found Uncharted 2 was the right amount of filler, the right amount of comedy, the right amount of level length and story that it felt great. And then 3, they upped it up with a little bit more cinematography and more graphical impressiveness. And 3, I didn't enjoy at all. I just found it took me out of the game totally, the stuff that you're able to do in 3. Whereas 2, I know it's not believable, but it was still really cool to climb up through the train in 2, where they tried to do that in 3 on the plane, and you're trying to climb up on through the plane as it's dropping off stuff out of the back of the plane as it's going down. I just found 2 when you're on that train and you're climbing up that train, it felt like you're like on the edge of your seat trying to get out before this train crashes down on you. And I think 2 was the pinnacle of that. And then PlayStation 4, Uncharted 4, the graphics, like when I played that when it first came out, it was the epitome of graphics. I hadn't seen a game look that good up until that point. The jokes were still there, the Easter eggs are still there. The fact you could play Crash Bandicoot while sitting on the couch, which was such a great Easter egg,
Inception.
Yeah, Naughty Dog produced the Crash Bandicoot, and they did this as well, and they broke that down and put it on your screen, and you could hear I think her name's Helena talking to you, and bust your balls, pardon my French, about certain things that you're doing wrong in the game. And it's such a great game, and the franchise is just so good. I think that it's one of those games that I think it'll test the test time, where you can play it and there's just go. There's some exploring involved, but it's still point A to point B, and the points in between are still so much fun and so good. And like you said, the jokes in certain games alleviate that tension in everyday life or even in the game, and those little jokes make you laugh. And I remember one was, you go on to the top of a building and you jump into a pool, and your AI controlled character is just standing there. He's like, okay, you're gonna get out of the pool, and he's playing, and Nathan is like, the voice actor is like, Marco, and you're waiting for the AI to say Polo so you can get out of the pool. Those little things. It's just like seeing yourself soaking wet when you come out of the pool. It was something really cool that I didn't think they would put that in the game. And when I'm the type of person that when you see those things brought into a game, like footprints back in the day eventually would disappear the farther you got away from the original footprint. And then you see games like Red Dead Redemption, where you can go 500 feet and you still see your footprints, which is really, really cool to see. And I like those little things that they drop in there, that it's like, wow, you could shoot a mirror off a car or something like that. Those are the type of things I enjoy.
Well, and the way that I haven't played that series myself, I've always kind of looked at it from a distance. Like, if Tomb Raider was here,
Mm-hmm.
Uncharted is like here, where it's, if you enjoy Tomb Raider, you'll enjoy this, but it just takes it and improves upon it in practically every way.
Yeah, and back to the Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider is a fantastic franchise. What they did when you're playing the new Tomb Raider, you kind of get those vibes of Uncharted. But Tomb Raider was the one that kind of kicked it off. But I guess you could say Uncharted kind of perfected the sauce. They made it just right, and then Tomb Raider again, picked up that mantle and kept on going with it. Like you can still get those vibes from both games. You're playing Uncharted, you get those Tomb Raider vibes. You play a Tomb Raider now, you get those Uncharted vibes. So it depends on where you come in on the gaming spectrum. If you play those PlayStation 1 games, you can look at Uncharted and say that you got that from Uncharted, you got that from Tomb Raider. But if you grew up on the
successor,
exactly. But if you played your first entry was PlayStation 3 and you never played a Tomb Raider before that, and you played Uncharted, and then you play Tomb Raider, you say, "Oh, they kind of ripped that off of Uncharted." Actually, no. Pull it back a little bit. It was originally from Tomb Raider, but modernized and brought forward. So it's really cool to see that stuff. That legacy continues, even though it's a different franchise.
So for my last entry in here, I've got to go back to the 16-bit era, to the Super NES, to the Sega Genesis, and my good friend, Earthworm Jim. I talked about how I loved Ratchet and Clank because it made me laugh. I loved the dialogue in it. And it was one of those that it wasn't just, something that I was laughing at because it was a mistake or a glitch or something like that. The very first game I remember doing that with is Earthworm Jim. He is the grooviest of groovy characters out there. And Tommy Tellerico, if you happen to see this, know this. I am buying an Intellivision Amico simply to play a new Earthworm Jim. I know that they brought out Earthworm Jim and remastered it for the PlayStation 3. I missed out on that. I don't have that in my collection. I wish I did. Limited run games, bring it to the Switch, bring it to the PS4, please. I know Tommy's not looking to do that. He's looking to bring it to the Amico moving forward. The fact that he is the one character that you have to use your head. Literally, you use the head, the body, the entire Earthworm Jim to play this game. The music is amazing. The level design is great. It got better from the first game to the second game, and it is one of the few games I will openly admit, I won't necessarily say I'll only acknowledge it, but I'll openly admit the Genesis version was the better version between the Super NES and the Genesis. Between the slap bass on the music itself, the extra levels that were missing from the Super NES version. Overall, Earthworm Jim, if you like action platformer, running guns, stupid, silly games, Earthworm Jim, for me, it's at the top of my list. It is one of my favorite franchises, but I will say I do not acknowledge the existence of Earthworm Jim 3D. That one does not exist. There are only 2 Earthworm Jims and remastered. What say you?
I actually it was probably one of the first PC games I've ever played was Earthworm Jim. I had it on my 486 Pentium 486 back in, oh my god, I don't remember when that was, 90
486 would have been 94 to 96.
There you go. So yeah, I was in high school, so that was the first game I played, and it was such a great game, being able to use your head, like you said, literally using it to zip line down. I think there was another thing where if you were on a zip line or you're crossing paths or something like that, you would lift your own butt up so that like little things like that. Jumping on a teeter totter to launch the cow launcher. I remember that, I think that was one of the first games I've actually played with 8 directional shooting. I don't remember playing a game that at that point had 8 directional shooting. I think Vector Man had it as well, but I never played Vector Man. So that was one of the first ones where you're stationary and you could shoot in 8 directions, which was pretty cool. Like little things, so you shoot a crow, their beak falls out. The jumping on the tires, and you're constantly jumping on the tires. I remember playing that game, and I really did enjoy that. I haven't played it since then. Not for anything. It's just that I never picked it up. And I lied. I think I did play the Genesis version prior to the PC version. But those were the last times I've ever played it. And I can understand the following, the jokes, the little things that behind it. He also dropped his trunks too, right?
Yes.
Yes,
When he
and
died
see,
and
when he
whatnot.
died, he dropped his trunks. When like the game over scene, the screen of black, and you would have him in the middle of the screen. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, those are the things that you would you want to continue, and it was a really good game. The level design was fantastic, and it made you really think of what to do next. If you're jumping on the tires, you had to zip line your head to the zip line. You had to grab it just at that right moment to continue on. The platforming was really good and pretty complex too, because it wasn't just play a game and go. Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
I mean, I'm looking at the box for this is for Earthworm Jim 2 for the Super NES. The very last bullet point: whip, run, jump, fly, and snot your way to victory. To save, was it Princess Slug for a butt or something like
Yes,
that?
yes, I remember. And they had that. Didn't they have the animated series too?
Yes, that a
Yes,
lot of people don't realize, but Dan Castellaneta, who is the voice of Homer Simpson, did the voice of Jim.
yes, I
think it
do
ran
remember
3
that show.
seasons.
Wow, I haven't thought of that show in years, and yeah, I do remember that show, Princess Slug for a butt. That's that's funny. That took me back. Wow.
Yep. Well, Mike, I got to thank you for coming and hanging out with us today on this episode of Rock Solid Radio. For those who are looking to find you out there, where can they find more information about the Retrollectors?
You can find me on Twitter at RetroLectors. You can find me on Instagram with, I believe, at RetroLectors as well. I'm not sure if it's at RetroLectors or the Retrolectors. You could find me on YouTube, the Retrolectors. It's a play on words, retro and collector. Combine them together, you got Retrolector. So if you're looking to spell it out, don't spell out Retro Collectors, you're not finding my channel. Retrolectors, double L. And you could find me on Facebook page, and on Facebook, the Retrolectors as well. And I would like to thank you very much for having me on this. It was something that well, once you offered it up, I was really ecstatic to do it. I didn't know that you personally wanted me on this, but it was really awesome to be part of it. It was something that I was not expecting, and you messaged me out of the blue and asked, and you asked, oh, who would be a good podcast host today? And I'm like, well, there's Pixel Game Squad, there's Rax the
And
Great.
I knew you were wrong just with that one. Riff is never a good co-host.
I know, so like I'm downplaying. I'm like, oh, you could ask me, but it's not how you asked me. So I'm like, there's these guys. They're pretty decent. They're great.
Right.
They're great channels and people personalities as well. And then he's like, no, dummy. Like, I'm talking to you. Do you want to do it?
And I did literally think I called you dummy.
And
And for those, I will have links to all of Mike's socials down in a pin post, so make sure you check that out too.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks. It was a great idea. Now, if you want to be on a future episode of Rock Solid Radio, you can go ahead and leave a comment down below. If you've got an idea you want to go ahead and pitch, I am all ears, no hair. What can I say? That's not funny.
Bald is beautiful. Trust me, I got
was
no
gonna
hair.
say, yeah, I see that shine there. I've
Bald
actually
is
got less
beautiful.
shine than you.
Exactly.
But if you've got any questions, as normal, feel free to email us, rocksolidmail@gmail.com, Twitter, @RoxSolidStudios, Facebook, facebook.com/RoxSolidProductions, and, of course, on Instagram at instagram.com/RoxSolidProductionsGK. I'm looking to bring this back, doing it more on a regular basis, hopefully once or twice a month. Looking for great topics, looking for great people to have on. So if you want to be involved, feel free to reach out to us here on the channel. I am Gary from RoXolid Productions. I thank you for watching and listening to this week's episode of Rock Solid Radio. And until next time, we are checked out, gone.